Tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Dame Noeline Taurua. It's really awesome to be chatting with you.
It's my pleasure, and I am so excited to be chatting with you too.
So for this kōrero, I see that you have got your hair and makeup done and your clothing is gorgeous. Was that just for me?
Well, it is for you. It really is. But also we did a bit of a promo shoot as well. We're heading into Netball World Cup. My beautiful, I was going to say assistant, but she's not. She actually tells me what I need to do around the media and that. So she got that sorted this morning, and hence coming in looking like this. I'm a tracksuit type of girl, bit of slippers, so I feel really beautiful at the moment.
You look really beautiful
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah, nice. Can we, I've done some research on you, and I've got 8 pages of notes.
Great.
So, and it's no point me telling you your story, but there's a lot of story to tell. So there's a part of me that just doesn't know where to begin. Could I ask you about when you had been into athletics and you'd kind of grown out of that single person sport, and you were like, I want to be a team sport person, and you were playing and wanting to be in the Silver Ferns, and you didn't get in. And you had a knee injury and you were pregnant. Can you tell us a bit about what life was like and what you were doing at that season?
Look, it's quite it's interesting that you picked that bit up, because I keep saying to my children, actually, when I finished school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And there was probably 2 things that I was really clear about. One was going overseas, and the second thing was not getting pregnant. You know, and it's, you know, my kids go, oh, well, like this sort of, but it was sort of a thing that happened in my, with my mates and where I grew up and people that I knew, and it wasn't definitely not a negative or anything like that, but going overseas was one of the things that I was really focused about. Sport at that time was just something that I did, but really, you know, I didn't have any intention to, at that time, be a Silver Fern or, you know, anything like that. So went overseas, do what you do when you go overseas, and came back. And at that time, my parents were down in Wellington, and I was a poor person, you know, post touring around the place, went down there and stayed with them, and sort of my eyes opened up and opportunities presented. And at that time, a club, PIC, I was involved with, and, you know, like growing up, my mother was always, she loved netball, loved netball. My family always around netball or around sport, you know, these little communities. Yeah. And so opportunity presented where one of the Margaret Martinga at that time, who is once again an icon or a legend in our sport, was retiring. So opened up once again a position for me, and went in, and pretty much it all sort of started from there. So yeah. So
when you say it opened up a position for you, you must be playing netball at this point. Do you think netball could be a career? Are you thinking that?
No, I mean in those years it definitely wasn't a career as such as it is now. Like, you get paid, and it is a professional career, and, you know, like when you add up the contracting and certain whether it's the Silver Ferns or other clubs that you belong to, it's a good wicket, you know, better than we were, and we had a pair of shoes, and that was fantastic at that time as well. So it wasn't a career, it was more, I think, you know, playing for New Zealand is one of those things that, whether it's playing or coaching, that not very many people get the privilege to do. And even though it was an intention right at the beginning, as you sort of get in, muscle up with everybody else, you think, hey, it could be possible. And slowly, you know, good things happen, other things don't, and just get on the pathway. So, yeah.
So you're playing at PIC. You're playing with a pretty awesome group of women.
Yeah.
And at what point do you go, I want to represent New Zealand? Like, was there a moment? What was it for you that made you go, actually, this could be in reach for me?
Oh, look, it's when I think back on these sort of these moments in your life, I find, and I was always one of those kids that had the talent. My father always said, "You're lazy, and you need to get out and run or do extra things." I go, yeah.
Was he right? Or?
Yeah, he was. When I think about it now, and even what I did in those times, what I could have, should have, even while I was in New Zealand, there was more that I could have done. And in hindsight, you look back and think, oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't bad, but I knew I could have been better. So one particular year, it's actually with my oldest daughter. I was pregnant with her, still playing for Wellington. I done my ACL, and I remember distinctly I had to go through you go through the surgery, and you have a 3/4, in those days, you have a 3/4 length cast. So, you're wearing that for like 6 months or so. So, you've got a lot of time that you're thinking about things.
Yeah.
And in those moments, especially having my first child, do I want to play? Do I not? With my knee, I knew I had to do something with that and rehab. And then all of a sudden, a lightning bolt came out of the sky and said, yes, I want to play. So I think I was a late bloomer, 25, 26.
Really?
On entry into the Silver Ferns. And once again, it wasn't that I earned that position, it was just that somebody else got injured. I wasn't selected in the first instance, someone else got injured. That opened up an opportunity for me.
So let's go to you're not selected. You've had the lightning bolt, you've rehabbed your leg, you've got a baby that you have to deal with, the sport doesn't pay, you have the lightning bolt and you don't get selected. How's that?
Yeah, I think, it's I don't know, you just get on with it.
Just get on with it.
You just get on with it.
Yep.
You look at yourself, I think then, I'm a bit more mature. It's not just about me, it's about, my family and things like that. And you get on to whatever the next thing needs to be. I think, because of these experiences, and now that I'm a coach, I sort of understand different pathways that people go through. Just because that moment of time may not be a selection or might not be the right time, there's always time that you can come back in and around. It's just getting the timing right. Yeah.
Did you hold on in that season? Did you think, oh, well, I'll keep playing for Wellington, I'll keep my fitness up, and I love the game.
Yeah.
I'll just keep going.
I did keep going. At that time I was in what we call the New Zealand A's underneath. Yep. We were in competition. The other person, as I say, unfortunately got injured, opened up an opportunity, and then I got called in at that time. So, and then it sort of really started from there. And they always say once you're in, the hardest is actually staying in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once you're in, it's staying in. The expectation that comes on you.
What's hard about it?
I think expectation, basically, more on yourself, but more as well what other people expect from you now that you've sort of got the Silver Fern title,
So what was it like for you being in the black dress wearing the Silver Fern? What did it give you? Yeah,
the first thing that I remember distinctly is my first test, singing the national anthem. And oh God, when I think of it, it's just standing on the line once again with your mates, I think, out on court. How proud you are of yourself, but also your family, and especially my mum. She's an avid netballer, and all her friends are, and it's just how it has been in our family. So knowing how proud she would feel at that moment of time, and my own family, my brothers and sisters, so always stirs up everybody when it's your first test. I know it, and you can feel it. So that was probably the introduction, and because of that, it's sort of, you want to keep there. You want to stay there, you want to get more of that good feeling. And once again, it's a bit of a slog to stay there.
And you tell a funny story about the first time you took the court.
Oh, God. It's all these stories. Sometimes I think,
why did I tell that story?
Can it be somebody else? Sometimes things stupid. I remember going for the ball, and it was one of my first balls, and I just remember the ball just ricocheting off my head, and it's sort of one of these things that I think, oh, Noel, oh, God, Noeline. You know, like, it's not that you're dumb, Noeline, it's not that, but, oh, God. You know, one of these cringe moments. I can't even remember if we won that game, but that was my first foray, that was my first touch, and yeah, thankfully I didn't get any of that any other games. So,
and it's not the whole story, is it? It's like a moment can't encapsulate.
No, but it feels like that sometimes, and a moment can't. It's just one moment and you move on, but it's interesting how those moments, depending the circumstances or the situation or the context, can really etch a picture in your mind or your being.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're saying it's not that you're dumb. Like you're saying to yourself, it's not that you're dumb, because balls fly.
Yeah.
And body parts get in the way of balls, you know?
Yeah.
And things happen, don't they?
Yeah, things happen.
Yeah. Like you getting into the Silver Ferns and then staying in the Silver Ferns, you know, which is the hard part. So I hear humility in you saying, you know, oh, I didn't really earn my spot. But once you were in the Ferns, you earned your spot and stayed in the Ferns for 5 years.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I suppose I didn't actually even take that time to think about it in that way, because I put so much significance on my entry point into there. So, yeah, thank you. I didn't even, didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Can we talk about another, I guess, kind of like a tenet of what I perceive to be how you do things? You do things with a lot of integrity. So I've heard it talked about that you might be offered a great role or a great opportunity, like becoming a dame, but you don't just be like, oh yes! You're like, I'm going to consider this, not just the impact on myself, but the impact on my whānau. And in learning Te Reo Māori, just the baby beginnings that I've started, whānau first was this phrase that came up again and again and again, and we know it translates to family first. But where the rubber hits the road is when we really do consider the whānau first. Can you tell me what whānau first means to you and how it impacts your way of being? Yeah.
It's as you know, it's big, It is actually hard to explain, because I mean, obviously my immediate family, those ones that I go home to every day, every night, and the impact on them, especially my children. You know, my husband at the moment can sort of flick things off, even though he's had an aggressive time, you know, as I've come through as well, and being quite protective of me. But with the kids, it's sort of, you know, they have their own life. And it's how we can not only ensure that their life is as good as it can and not get caught up in stuff that I do or don't do, but that they're strong enough to weather the storm, sometimes depending what the storm looks like, and still be their own person. So I think that's really important, and that's probably the starting point for me. When things come in, obviously when my mum and dad were alive, they were always a sounding board, and with my dad it wasn't just about the whānau, it was about the iwi, it was about our connection back up north, and how that either influences, whether positive or negative, and my ability to be able to think about those things. I even think, when I think of the whānau as well, you know, people within Netball New Zealand and all my mates and people who will give me sound advice. Once again, not necessarily things that I want to hear, but making sure that they tell me what they think, so it's not going to come out of the woodwork and hit me between the eyes if something comes out that's negative for me, you know. So I have the immediate, I have my mates, I have my friends, I have my working buddies, I have my iwi up north, and everything needs to be considered. So it takes a wee bit of a time to go through that, but it always gets to the place where it sits. You know, and
what does that feel like? Describe what it's when it sits? How's that for you?
Yeah, I'm a real, I suppose I'm a spiritual person, and I find it hard to explain, but sometimes it's sort of like when you're grounded. There's a lot of things sometimes that goes through my head, and I've got to get the answers, or I've got to find a solution for something. But I always find out that when I do all the research, or I talk to a lot of people, I hear different thoughts, and then it always comes down to filter. I always think filters down into my stomach. And then I know what that feel is, and once it's there, then I know which way to go. So being patient on that, and not forcing it, and once again getting different perspective helped me get into that frame and get into that feel. It's I don't know, it's just if you're grounding yourself, it's got that feel where it just sits nice.
So some people would call it gut instinct or a gut feel, or I like what you said, it sits. And I would say I'd have peace about it. Like the turmoil up here is quietened down, and I feel at peace with, even if it's like a hard decision, and it's going to be not popular with everybody, or it's going to be a lot of effort. It's got an inner strength as well, so you got that there, and you got your heart I always think your heart's connected to it. Still a lot of things going around, but you know that you can navigate these things that's going around and go forth, I think, with strength. And I think, you talk about mana, not necessarily, or integrity of everybody else's perspective, it's yourself. And you're ready to move. I love the fact that you are also saying you give yourself time to do that, and you're patient, because it's really it can be very tense not having the answers and not knowing what you're going to do. Like you're kind of living in this. So can we talk for a moment about you don't get selected for the coach of the Silver Ferns. You've had this amazing run with the Magic, where the Magic's the only team to win the ANZ Australia versus New Zealand competition, the only New Zealand franchise to win. And you've been coaching now for, I don't know, quite ages. And you're ready to be a head coach, and you go for the Silver Ferns and you don't get that position. When you heard, no, it's not you, Noeline, what was that like for you?
One thing that I sort of knew going into that particular interview was I had the choice, and I think because I was sort of that was the third time actually that I went for an interview, so I wasn't a
newbie.
I wasn't my new to the rodeo sort of thing. So I had a choice in the interview whether there's sometimes you can sort of, how can I say this nicely, you can go with what you think they want you to hear. You can go with what you think they want to hear, or you can go with what you want to say. And it's actually a fine line, you know what I mean? Because you got to be smart about these things too, and also know, I suppose, where the organisation wants to go and these sort of things. So I thought going into this interview, they got to know who I am. And if I get the job or don't, or if I get the job, they got to know as to where and how I'm going to take it forward in my way. And if they don't, that's absolutely fine, because obviously I'm not the right person for the job or what the organisation wants. So I had actually got to, you think about these grounded feeling and knowing, at that moment of time, that's what I'm going to do, that's how I'm going to do it. So I was actually at peace once again, knowing that I didn't get the job, because it was their choice and I was absolutely fine with it. Probably the best thing is that I was really happy that I had sort of done my groundwork prior to the interview.
So good.
My mouth didn't go. So people, and Kes is really good too, so sometimes my mouth goes, and media, I didn't get the job, roast me. But it didn't even come into my thinking.
So good.
Moved on.
So then you went to Australia and a new franchise. Sunshine Coast Lightning. Brand new franchise. You get to start from scratch. Was that cool?
Way cool. You know, that's the interesting thing. One door closes, you know, another one opens. I went to Southland just because of the timing for a short-term contract. And then this opportunity opened over in Sunshine Coast where it was a new competition there. One of the amazing things for me was the club was owned by Melbourne Storm. Melbourne Storm, for people who know NRL, they are the holy grail. So for me to get asked, I think is like, for me it was like, whoa, you know, it was real, very cool. I don't know what the wording is, but it was not that I was fathead or anything like that, but to be recognised. I don't think anyone's
going to accuse you of being fathead.
To be recognised,
yes.
and for somebody to ring me up and ask if I'd be interested. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, as I say, they're the holy grail in sport. So to learn from them or to have access to their resources, their people, for me in coaching world was just a big tick. What can I learn from them? How can I pick it up, take it into netball? The third thing, which I absolutely loved, you're starting from scratch. So there's no blueprint on anything. You can put your mark on there. You can work with the people. The fourth thing was, there's so many things, but I know it off by heart, is Sunny Coast. It's a community that is so beautiful. It reminded me actually of Southland, who I was with before, community driven. It's one of those things when something happens, a whole community goes. And very supportive of sport. And the fifth thing at that time was over my netball years, I have never worked in coaching, never worked and lived in the same place. One of my daughters was hitting 15 and her dad were at the space of, you need to do something about your daughter, you need to stay home. So it was an opportunity that I'll be working and playing in the same place, so we'll be together more. And it was just a good timing for us as our family. So I loved it. I just loved it, and I still love that place and still got, you know, a lot of warm memories and great friendships.
I bet.
Yeah.
So good. And you worked out how the Australians do their competition. Like you probably intersected with a whole lot of learning that you might not have if you hadn't have coached over there.
Well, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You're coaching different people. Yeah. Different people from different countries, different walks of life. And once again, what I do, how I do it, how would that be with this new group of people? Yeah. So it gave me a lot of confidence, but also gave me the opportunity to learn from them as well. Yeah. And that mix is beautiful.
So I hear you when you say that mix is beautiful, giving you confidence to do what you do and confidence in yourself and your mahi, and also learning. Do you think that there always should be partnering?
Yeah, I do. That's how I suppose, you know, when you think of whānau, that's how it is. You know, it's the collaboration, it's the tuakana-taina, you know,
sister,
it's the whole system, ecological, how everything moves. Yeah. You learn, you share, reciprocally, you get value out of that as well. So, once again, those things ring true. It's how it is.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true. We're always learning, aren't we?
Yeah.
They say if you stop learning, you're dead.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask, what does whānau first look like when you've got this amazing team? The Lightning wins the Australian competition. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And you've got this good family time going on. You're living and working with your family in a good community, and you get the call from the Silver Ferns. I don't know how it rolls out. And they say, do you think maybe you could come back and coach our team because we're having a bit of a sticky situation over here right now? What does it look like going to your family, or what does that look like when that invitation lands in your body?
Yeah, I think the first thing was while I was over in Australia, my father passed away. Actually, I did come back. Yeah. My father passed away, and one of the things that I remember actually was Jenny, our CEO, came to his tangi. And where we are in this particular marae, it's not like, you know, downtown. Like you got to go through the wop-wops to get to where he was. And, you know, when she did walk in, and I mean, I hadn't had any contact with Netball New Zealand for a few years, apart from, you know, my mates and that. I was actually quite humbled by her taking the time, and some of our other people from Netball New Zealand was also there, one to show respect but also support as well. So, that was big. And that remained in my mind, and not necessarily around the payback or anything like that, but around how important people are. And so, 6 months or whatever later, knowing what happened at Commonwealth Games as well, and getting the phone call. Once again, it's a tricky situation because I was already contracted to Sunny Coast, and not very many times you'll be asked to look at something that you have to work with your current employers. And say, hey, there's another contract working for your country. How can we both make this work? And once again, it takes a lot of discussion behind the scenes, and for both Sunny Coast and also Netball New Zealand, even to go into those discussions and be courageous to look at a different way of working the contract, but also working how I could be involved is massive. So, even that in itself was something, not that it's not that I'm personally proud about, but it's looking at different ways. We don't have to do the same thing, and all parties are happy to go into that space. I think that's just so cool and groundbreaking, and evolves and moves people forward. So that in itself, once we got through that and we knew we could make it work and everyone was happy, we're in. We're in, and we're all ready, how can we make it work and make it positive?
And you did make it work, and you did make it positive, and we won the next time we went to the competition. Can I talk about making your mark? Because you talked about the Sunny Coast team and you get to make your mark, and you're talking about groundbreaking, I hear that, and how you're proud to do new things and push it forward. Is that part of how you make your mark, is to be quite creative in your approach to life and coaching and your mahi, and to try new things?
Yeah, it is. I always think you've got to have a strong foundation, strong people in and around you that can guide you, because there's sometimes when you're looking at different ways, you can not necessarily fall off the cliff, but you don't want it to be a negative for anybody. So I love doing things differently. I think that's how I am too. I'm not a nice little person in a box, and I never have been. But I like looking at ways how we can maximise, I always think, our potential, whether it's as a group or as an individual, and what else is there. I always tell the story of, God, I can't even remember now his name now, I'm harping on about it, with the sailing and against
we do know sailors between us. We know,
when it was 9, we were 9-1 down.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Spittle. Even though I keep saying I tell the story and I can't even remember his name. No, that's sweet.
But hey, oh my God, they were 9-1 down, and
they changed their boat.
Change this, change that, and him even able to talk it up and say, hey, we're going to win. So 9-2, 9-3, 9-4, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that they won it. It was what was the stuff that they'd done behind the scenes to get their boat into that ability to compete. So mentally, what would they have done?
Wow. Where does your breaking the mould come from, do you think?
I think my father.
Yeah?
He broke I think he broke the mould all the time.
Yeah.
He was a very strong man, very clear on his own values, and fought the good fight for many years and didn't quiver out of that. So sometimes it's not until they actually pass away that you think, okay,
So he modelled living his values, even when it cost him, probably. He was a Vietnam War vet?
Yeah, he was.
He was an activist?
Yeah.
And he was a man who cared deeply for his people and fought for his people.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he very much did.
And was probably misunderstood regularly.
Yeah, sometimes he was misunderstood, and then sometimes Sometimes he went on his own cheery. Like sometimes I would say to him, there's other ways that you can do things. You don't have to go hard. There's some soft things that you can do to help get people to understand your take, what you're trying to put forward. It's easy for me to say some of these things because I didn't live to the degree that he did and his mother did and his grandparents did. So I'm coming in from the outside, but maybe through that outside perspective, we could move things faster or in a different way. So that's all I sort of try to get into him when I did talk to him about it. But, sometimes it just goes, he does his own thing. But I think those things have come through him.
Yeah. Yeah. And breaking the mould is something that you continue to do, because I think about how, there are some pretty amazing stories about you, and they are like you gave birth maybe to your fifth child, and then that next weekend you were training because that's what the role required, and because of your commitment to the role, which really is like saying a couple of things to me. Does it communicate to me, or as a woman I am able and capable to do whatever I set my hand and heart to and head to, or does it say to me, oh my goodness, I could never do that, and I am, you are an incredible human being who I could never emulate. So it's like it obviously that depends on me and what perspective I take. But I know that you have advocated for women in sport to be able to have like a yes and to be able to play and be mums in a different way, and I think you've modelled that.
I think there's different thoughts that you can have to that sort of situation. I even think, because my husband says it all the time, how lucky I am to have him, and I say, you're lucky to have me, and that is another maybe perspective that you can look at, like when you have a person that's sort of out the front. It's the people, when you think about whānau or family, it's your husband or your family at home who provide the substance or the strength around me as an individual in particular. So, I wouldn't have been able to do what I do without them. And obviously, I'm been quite lucky where I didn't have any problems around, my pregnancy or giving birth. And that's another thing that I think, thank goodness, because a lot of other women do. So just, just once again, if I can do it, I will do it, because it wasn't just about me. I buggered up my timing and my planning of having my fifth child. Usually I'm very good at those things, so I was sort of like a week out of
Can't you blame Eddie?
Come on, let's go. So, but thankfully things were good for me, so I was able to do that, but I understand that others can't, and that's absolutely fine.
So do you think consciously, as far as elite sport and the women in your team, do you think if they want to become mums and keep playing, we can make that happen? If they don't want to keep playing or they don't want to become mums, we can work with that. Like, what's your attitude?
Yeah, very much so. Look, I think the first thing for me is women are blessed to have children, and not a lot of women can. And sometimes you can plan like I do, and sometimes you can't, you just don't, and a child pops up, and it's a positive occasion if that's how it is for you and your husband or you and your family. So that's probably the very first thing for me. You think about whānau, how precious that is, and I'll do whatever that needs to happen, one for that person, one for that baby, but also what needs to happen, hopefully that they still want to play netball or be a part of our team. So, we'll take it slowly. And it's quite interesting when you have first-time mothers, because they think, I'm just having a baby and then I'm going to be out on court. And you think, okay, good luck. And once again, you can't say nothing to them. They have to go and experience that themselves. So we're pretty good in netball. I reckon we're very, very good in, once again, the care and the nurture around the woman, the family, and then also hopefully I would like to think opening it up so that they can come back in when they're ready. We're also very lucky in our sport as well because we have good people, we have support people, we have medical, you know, our S&C, the experience now to get the woman back to top shape, knowing that their body has changed. Men, you know, like periods, what does that mean? You know, woman health, what does that mean? And we're venturing into that space more than we ever have. So, you know, if netball can champion some of the stuff that happened with women, I think that's very cool, and so it should be. We should be working in that space.
Because so often, I love hearing you even saying periods. Like we're better and better at talking about these things, right? Because they happen once a month to every woman of childbearing age who is functioning in some way.
Yeah.
And so, well, do they? And you know, there's obviously medication aside. So, is there like hormones are so often talked about negatively? Oh, what's your opinion when if somebody wants to have if you're thinking about female hormones, do you like go, ugh, or are you thinking differently about them?
No, it's part of it. I think it isn't something that we talk about often, is it? Periods probably within netball or within the female sport needs to be taken into consideration anyway. To, here we go, optimise or to get the best out of that person. So you have to understand some of the details, but also once again, which is really important, especially in high performance sport, that they have a monthly period. That's really important. And you hear a lot of other sports where women go through, you know, missing periods or not getting it at all. That's unhealthy on their body, so we've got to make sure that happens. And honestly, like now, oh God, you talk about hormonal, and I'm talking about myself. You know, the poor men are now, they'll go, oh God, I'm just hormone. Don't worry if I'm forgetting about this. I'm just going through menopause. And I can hear that it's just like looking at me. I said, ask your wife. You know, your wife will understand. And then it's actually quite funny because they go, yes. Yes, that's right.
So who are these Who are you having these conversations
you know,
with?
We've got quite a few men in our Silver Ferns management group. And
you're on a few boards.
Yeah. I haven't got to the board yet. We haven't got time for me to be relaxed in those ones. So I'm not too sure. I feel really comfortable with our management group.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talk a lot about the families and, you know, whether your husbands or wives and, you know, because we're away quite a bit. So I think there's just so many common themes. And making sure, once again, when we are away, that we've got everything sorted at home. So, you know, I pop up with these things around, I'm hormonal, or this is what's happening in my life, and they just sort of look at me and actually agree, because there's quite a few of us that are in the same age group.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. And I say, I'm sure there's something that's going to be happening to you too very soon, and you need to tell me, so then I know what it is, you know. So, you know, we expect our athletes to be open, you know, in our management group. We expect our athletes to be honest and you know, have certain values, and so why aren't we as a management group? So, you know, you got to walk the talk and not be worried about these things, but also I feel we're really comfortable in our group. So, you know, it's taken us a few years to get to that place once again.
So you're talking about a safe place, a high trust place where you show up as yourself.
Yeah, very much so.
And is that one of your values, that bring yourself?
Whānau. You know, that for me, that's what whānau is. That we don't have to agree, but you back each other, you talk about things that you may not agree at, and then you work it forward. Be patient in how you work it forward to find that solution, but knowing that it's the collective. So, yeah, it's not anything different.
Do you think lots of coaches have your collective mindset? Is that influenced by your upbringing?
Yeah. It's influenced by my upbringing. I'm not too sure if other people. I think everybody has their own way. That's taken me a little while in coaching to learn that. Okay. You know, I always thought you had to be dictatorial and slam things down and, you know, not talk to people and be a certain way. As I got more experience, I found out you don't. You can just be yourself, and it's quite interesting because it sort of reflects your team. Sometimes reflects the coach or the person out the front.
Yeah.
It's like mum and dad. It's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Do you get tired?
Yeah, I do. I do get tired.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I get tired sometimes. Honestly, I'm one of these people. I go home. I used to, when I was over in Aussie, Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
I watch all these things, these series that have got, just great. I love home programs.
Yeah.
It's just nothingness, and I blank it. And when we did Married at First Sight, it was a good family thing. So we all sit there and watch and talk about that person and this person, and it was good. So it's a nothing TV, and but it's, if we can find a series that everybody likes.
Tell me you've watched Ted Lasso.
Oh, no, I haven't.
Haven't you?
No.
I mean, maybe it's too close because he's a coach.
Oh,
he's a
I've been
sports
told
coach.
about it. Yeah. It's funny. Huh?
It's funny.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a nice series.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Can I ask you, there's a bit about being an athlete where you have to be a bit selfish. You have to do your very best. Like there's a lot at stake, and winning is the goal. And so there's sacrifices being made potentially by your support people or by yourself as an athlete. As a coach, how do you manage a group of high performing selfish athletes?
Yeah. Our sports psych says they're highly functioning athletes. And it's synonymous that with high performance athlete, yes, not necessarily are they selfish, but they're very clear about what their plan is, and they know what they need to do and how they're going to do it. So they can be quite focused on that.
Focused is a better word.
And committed is another thing. So it's always a fine line sometimes when they are like that, because then you've got to keep a balance on things. That's why I actually like with a lot of them, if they do go out and work, or have other interests outside netball, I think it's healthy and once again keeps it balanced, so you're not just so caught up in it, So how do you bring it together? First thing I think, when you're working with a team, you need strong individuals who have a point of difference, and that's what I like. I think that's also a reflection of me. It's a celebration of the uniqueness of each individual, and also knowing that the individual doesn't have to be like anybody else. I don't care how you pass the ball or whatever, each person can do it differently, and I think that's a competitive advantage. It's got something that nobody else can do that. Aussies, they have, which is what their strength is. The conveyor, one goes out, another one comes in. They nearly look exactly the same because they've had that same system underneath, and they do what they do really well. Whereas our diversity in New Zealand is it. So you don't want to hammer that out. You want individuals to be who they are and be really strong about that. So I think that's a first starting point. And then the next thing is, I always think, what's bigger than winning? Whether it's around our values or our vision. And probably the main thing that holds the culture together. So it's really hard because there's so many elements, but it's sort of how the uniqueness or the individual not necessarily fits in the culture. It's how the culture, it's the people within the culture, and their responsibility to the to the silver fern and the black dress, their accountability around their contribution, their understanding of history. I think that's really important, from the people beforehand, where they sit and what they do now will become part of history in the future. Their understanding, that's really important. And also, I always think, that once again, they'll be safe in this environment, but they belong to something bigger than themselves. And I think when you can get into that space, man, they can move. They'll move heaven and earth to be themselves, but to give themselves. And that's always the best.
The sweet spot.
That's the sweet spot. When you're in that spot, it takes a long time to get there. You've won. It's bigger.
And there's something profound about belonging to something bigger than yourself, or being part of something bigger than yourself. It actually releases you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
To be who you are.
It does.
Because you don't have to be everything.
That's right. Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing.
That's the beautiful thing about it. And, when you find that balance, people yin yang, we call wairua. When your wairua is settled and you be. It's like your stomach, you sit and you know where you are, you're with your mates, You don't have to be anybody that you're not, just yourself, and you go and play. And that's we have a thing called pure, which is our values. That's pure. It's the pure. You can't explain it because each person will have their own pure. And it's beautiful.
And that actually makes it makes so much practical sense, because you're not spending energy trying to impress or be something other than, or cover your tracks, or meet up to what you said. You are just doing you to the best of your ability in relationship.
Beautiful.
Okay, can I ask, because you've become a dame, you had significant success, worked very hard, you're tenacious, and you have taken the learning, you continue to learn, and you were offered this opportunity to become a dame, which I understand you didn't say yes to immediately. You went to your whānau and to your Netball New Zealand and worked out what would you do. That will have maybe brought more opportunity and more requests. So do you want to say anything about becoming a dame, but also how do you say no to stuff in your life?
Yeah, I get people to say no sometimes.
That's a good idea.
I get people to say it. It just depends who it is sometimes, because sometimes it's easier for somebody else to say it than me.
Yep.
And it's just the timing sometimes of if I've got time to say no, or, if requests come in and then somebody else can deal with it. It's great.
Is no an okay answer?
Yeah, no's a good answer sometimes.
It is.
It is a good answer, and you only got you, and you only got what you need to do at a moment of time, and making sure that you spend that time wisely. Because sometimes as well, even though you might say no on that occasion, it might come back around, and you might have time to do it another time. So, I have some really good people around me, but I also know when it needs to, I'll say no, or hey, I'll do it another occasion. So, and the Damey thing, I think probably if I go back to my father, and possibly his tribal stuff, and around the treaty, and what the monarch means, and also the relationship between the tangata whenua and Queen Elizabeth when you're signing the document. So he's very clear on what his thoughts were about, and because he had actually passed by the time I was asked to take the Dame, I had to really think about things. He had, through his stuff, had also been, I don't know if it's offered or whatever, something on the honours, and he didn't accept it because of that, because of those reasons around tribal, and so that was probably the main thing that stood in my head, and I had to really, once again, sit on it for a long time to see if it was the right thing, and then talking to various people, sort of realised that he would actually be proud. My mother was still alive, and then and she had heaps of like a brain aneurysm and strokes and things like that, so it's not like she could talk. But when I did ask her, she had this biggest smile on her face, and then that was a sort of a bit of a tick, and sort of just thinking, what would Dad say? But I do believe he would have been proud no matter what, even though he'll be saying something himself. But so then it's just once again going through that same process that I do, talking to different people. I do think probably one thing that I have become mindful of is that I've still got a lot to give to people, and I've got a lot in the game. And I think for me, and the timing of it, it's just probably has kept me in the game maybe longer than I would have, because I'm mindful that I've got to pay back. It's not, once again, it's not just about me, but I've got to earn that acknowledgement that has been given to me. So whether it's like for the rest of my life or what, I'm not too sure. God, I don't know how long, but I've got to stay in the game, and I've got to try and help. And whatever that takes, or whatever situation arises out of that. So I'm still in here, and I think that's pretty cool. And it's very cool. I've got to say around that.
Yeah, very cool. Is it fun? Has there been any good bits about being a dame?
I get awfully embarrassed
Perfect. That's a good bit, is it?
Yeah, I do. I get embarrassed. I just
enough.
go, oh God, like this, hey, and then I just smile and wave, like this, and
like
this
this.
sort of a wave, like this, your arm goes like this sort of thing, and then you just sort of go into the moment of whatever I'm doing. So it just makes me cringe every time I'm sort of introduced like that.
Yeah.
I just but. Yeah.
Maybe one day it'll settle, might filter down and settle.
Yeah, maybe.
It might sit.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
You've mentioned a legend of the sport. You were talking about a player who made space for you. They retired and they were a legend, they were an icon. And I've heard it said of coaches, there's nobody as good as you. What do you feel about becoming part of New Zealand netball history and being yourself a legend and an icon?
Very humbling once again. I don't see myself in that way. I always feel that there is always somebody better than you, and there will be always somebody that's going to take it up another notch. I think, we've all sort of added on to each other's, whether their prowess or their understanding of the game, and we all build on what they've done in the past and keep adding on. So I always think that once again, I'm just part of the process or part of the ladder or whatever you want to call it, and then somebody else will take it on after me and add something else and something different. So it's very humbling to sort of be acknowledged in that way, but personally I don't see it like that. I'm just another person on the rung of the mill, and someone else will add on something beautiful or take our sport into a different way. And I think that's the coolest thing about it, is how you evolve or organically grow to be better than what we were and to improve. I think that's what it's all about, eh?
And it's testament to what you were saying, which is you're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
But you are a good part of something bigger.
I actually try to be.
You are. It's true.
I try to be.
Yeah.
I try sometimes. I just want to, even when I'm at the supermarket, just shove the,
get out of my way.
Get out of my way. I'm going to go through that red light. Sometimes it's like, how you have these little things on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh, you better not do that. Those sort of things.
Yeah,
but
I do.
I generally care for people, I really do, and I generally see the best in people, so once again, if I'm part of that, helping a person, I'll gladly do it.
Awesome. I've got one last question, but can you tell us the story about, I just wanted to go into a story of your creativity in terms of coaching. I heard a story where you're in Birmingham and the crowd noise at the Commonwealth Games is like, was it World Champs?
Yeah.
Commonwealth Games. The crowd noise at the Commonwealth Games is so profound that the players can't even hear each other. Like they're standing next to each other, they can't hear each other. And you came up with a way of dealing with that was quite creative. Can you tell us about that?
Well, there's actually quite a few good people around me, and we're always chatting about things. Yeah, the song, it's another day, it's another day. And one of the things that we found in the round robin is that every time New Zealand went on, we weren't favourable with the English crowd.
Okay.
I personally take it as because we were a threat.
Awesome.
So
I
sort of think that way. So if you're not used to it as well, it can be quite daunting when you go out. So we already knew that we were going to be in the semi-finals or, in the business end. We knew where we were going to be. So one of the things, we've got a really smart performance analyst and an IT geek or whatever they call them. So what we did was overlay the sound of the sound of
the ambient sound of the crowd,
the sound of the crowd, and overlaid that with "It's another day, it's another day." We were playing England, so we knew we were getting them ready for that. So usually when you come down the tunnel, what usually happens is you get your name called out, and then the crowd goes wild. So I can't even remember whether we were the first ones. Oh no, we came out in the tunnel. The second one with England, we're coming out in the tunnel. Each person names, wow. So we had actually recorded that. We overlaid the song. So might be the 2 days prior to that particular game, we had them wearing headsets at one of our trainings. It was only maybe about 40 minutes or so, and they trained with this particular loop on, so it just went around and around. The positive things out of it, it's sort of like, how do you call it? Oh, geez, I'm terrible on words. It's my hormones.
It's the hormones, darling. Darling, it's perimenopause. It's not you. It's not you.
I can't remember what the word is. But once again, they just get used to it.
So it's desensitizing them.
Oh, yeah, desensitizing. Desensitizing to the sound, but also because of that song. You're almost like rewiring.
Rewiring it.
Sounds terrible.
No, it's good.
Say that way,
no, it's rewiring. Oh my gosh.
It's
great.
It is. It's rewiring, but you can hear, so when we first came in, you hear the crowd, and then you just hear, it's a lovely day. It's lovely. And you can see them smile, when we're in the actual game, smile, and, it's all right. And you can say these words, it's a lovely day, you guys. It's a lovely day. So you're not actually, to some degree, it's not about the game. It's sort of like what we're talking about. It's what's bigger. It's a lovely day. Look at this place. People want to see you play. They want to see entertainment. They want to see a good skill set. They want to see a game. They want to see you just own it. You know what I mean? So you can put other things in and around it when you're talking this way, where it takes you out of the game, gives you freedom to express yourself.
And what you're talking about are so beautiful. What you're talking about are principles that we can take off the field, off the court, off the track, and into life. And I remember when I was briefly running, I ran for a period of 4 years, and overcoming breathlessness as I ran up a hill. And I was like, I can do this. When I meet difficulty in my work, when I meet difficulty in my life, I can keep going. I can find ways to breathe and move that are going to sustain me. Yes. So you can take learnings from all sorts of spheres, can't you? And take them into the world.
So the mind's so powerful, and we only go into a little, as I keep saying, the sports side, he says, we're only in a small percentage in that, but the power of that, but also the power of everybody working together, and the collective, and the smile that comes off on that when you've got a bunch of people, women, watch out, you know what I mean? So
totally, watch out.
It's actually that feel that drives, I think it drives my involvement in being a coach. It's got nothing to do, even though it has, with coaching and sport as such, but it's life. It's just at this moment of time we're doing netball, but there's so many transferable things you're going to learn out on the court or learn under pressure that you would take into your life. You'll share it with your whānau, your babies, your kids, and really that's the thing that drives me, really. It's all the other stuff that goes around it. That's pretty cool, I think.
Bloody marvellous. Bloody brilliant. Bloody marvellous. Awesome. It's awesome, Noeline. Awesome. Okay, last question. Can you picture yourself as an 80-year-old? You've already got some mokopuna, so you're lucky enough to be a grandma. And you're 80 now. What does your 80-year-old self say to you today?
Oh God, I might start crying.
Feel free.
I can actually picture myself as an 80-year-old. What would I? Oh God. I think when you can sort of have that opportunity to sit back, and not necessarily reflect on, I think, all the people who have gone in the past. I think that's probably a thing that I would hold dear. Or the involvement that you have with different people, whether your family or your sport. And I would hope that whether it's my family or people that I have been involved with, that there's been something positive come out of it. Whether you've been selected or not selected, that we all, we've done the best that we can, and you live to fight another day. So I think that would be something, if I probably now, who's to know what I'll be thinking when I'm 80. I might be thinking, God, get me out of here. Get me out of here, I've had enough. But I hope, I think all the people, all the people of my past and all those people that I would have helped and where they're going to in the future, I'd probably reminisce about that.
Bloody marvellous. Yeah. Come and visit me. Come and tell me your stories. Maybe that's what you'd be saying.
Yeah, I'll tell you
Noeline, you did good. Noeline, you did
I'll tell you
good.
a story. That's probably what I'd be like.
Yeah, let me tell you a story. Noeline, let me tell you a story.
I'll tell you a story. Yeah, it might be that. Actually, that could be it too. I'll tell you a story.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Ngā mihi nui ki a koe for your time and your sharing of yourself and your wairua and your wisdom, your mātauranga. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.